Today's PowerPoint presentation includes curious facts about driving in other countries, such as China, New Zealand, and Mexico. We're also going to look at graduated licenses from around the world, because everybody does it a little bit different. When can you start? When can you get to be an adult? And of course, even if you're licensed, well, it might look quite different if you're in China versus if you're coming from Texas. All right, let's begin. Number one. Most licenses are graduated, which means you don't get to act like an adult right away. You have to do it through a series of steps. The first step in Pennsylvania is you have to get a permit. Yep, and you're going to be 65 hours spending quality time with mom and dad on the right-hand side of the car. And a lot of times you're going to spend those hours hearing, "Oh my gosh, watch out," or "Oh my God, you almost scared me so much." Yeah, you'll hear those kinds of things. Usually there's going to be one parent who's a little bit more boisterous and vocal than the other, and you might feel more comfortable with the other parent. Sometimes, though, you really can't stand either parent, so you might want to drive with grandma or the next door neighbor, anybody who's got their driver's license and are 21 years of age or older. All right, then after you spend about approximately 6 months at least in training, you're going to be allowed to try for your driver's license. The first one you're going to get is going to be your junior license. Now, of course, you can drive back and forth to work and school and all kinds of other places, but you're going to do it under certain hours. So, from 11 to 5 in the morning, you're not allowed to be out and about. Because most times when teens have accidents, it's late at night, you can't see the road well, and a lot of times you're tired after being all day at school and perhaps working a part-time job. So they would rather have you be at home than out behind the wheel of a car at that time. Once you spend about 6 months behind the wheel and you have no accidents and no points in your record, they're going to let you get your senior license. So as long as you've taken 30 hours of driver ed, you've got no points or nothing on your record, well then of course they're going to let you drive whenever you want to and wherever you want to. So you get to be like the big boys and girls. Let's look at China now and see how they handle licensing. The biggest thing you see right away, of course, is the age. They don't get to be drivers at 16. They have to wait all the way until they're age 18. And that's because there's over 1 billion people in China. So of course, the more people they have on the roads, of course, more chance there is for an accident. So they're trying to keep people off the roads until they're much more mature and can deal with the complicated and congested roads that are there. Look at the facts underneath. A lot different than the United States, especially Pennsylvania. Instead of 18 questions and getting 15 right, you're going to have to take a 100-point multiple choice question test, and you're going to have to get at least 90 of them correct. So much higher passing rate. And then, once you do get out there and driving, wow, bicycles and motorcycles don't always follow those road signs. They just kind of do what they want to do, which makes it really hard for somebody behind the wheel to know exactly what's going to happen and anticipate what they need to do. And the biggest statistic I have for you is down below. 100,000 traffic deaths a year. Now, if you think about it, that's more than twice the number in the United States. But of course, they have 1 billion people. But if you look at the second part of it, we've got 4 times as many cars on the road as they do. So how comes we have 4 times as many cars, but they have twice as many deaths? Yeah, that's why sometimes the Chinese people get a bad rap about being bad drivers. But again, their roads are not quite as built as well as what ours are in terms of being able to do the traffic flow and also being able to deal with intersections. Let's have a look and see what I mean. So of course, here's Beijing. Very orderly, super highways and things like that. But then in other towns and villages, they really don't have a good system for how you get through in a 4-way intersection. It's really quite the chaos. That's what it looks like on a regular basis. You just kind of honk and beep and kind of wind your way through until eventually you make your way on the other side. And so you wonder why they have twice as many accidents as what we do? I've never really seen that before in a United States city, although that's quite common over in the Asian countries. All right, and unfortunately this is a sad statistic that I picked up off the line. Yep, 62 children unfortunately were in a little tiny bus. It only had 9 seats. So if you do the math, that's much more than what we have here permitted in the United States. There's also a driver and a teacher that died along with the kids who were only about kindergarten age. So really sad when it's congested and packed that much. All right, moving on to New Zealand. The average age that you're allowed to start here is 15. Wow, that's a whole year before us. Now, the learners have to do something special. Sometimes on the top of their roof or even on their license plate itself, it has a big old L, which doesn't stand for loser. It just means that you're learning. Now people know whenever you're around that, yeah, you're not always the best at driving the same as everybody else because you're, of course, brand new at it. Now, after 6 months, you can get a restricted license, much like you can here in the United States. So pretty much close to what we have. Between the hours of 10 p.m. and 5 p.m. or 5 a.m., you're not allowed to be out in the roads. So we basically get just one more hour than they do. Learners can have no more passengers other than their dependent children. That sounds kind of weird. Their spouse, also kind of young for 15, or persons holding a full license for more than 10 years. So for the most part, they're pretty close to what we have, where we say that no more than one person can be in your car if they're not your family members. And now, if you look at the bottom, you got to be 18 months with your permit. We only have to wait 6 months. So we're a whole year ahead of what their timetable is, even though they're allowed to do it at age 15. All right. And what does it look like to drive in New Zealand? Well, something like this. You can see over here, yeah, their one-way signs look a little bit different. A lot more country driving as well as mountainous driving, and not quite as built up as around here. So if you think New Zealand, think Lord of the Rings. All right, the next one we have is Mexico. In Mexico, you get to start at 16, same as the United States. And the one thing you do is, in order to get tested, well, you basically just have to go to a medical clinic and know what your blood type is. So just in case you have an accident, they know to give you type A or maybe even type B blood. So no eye exam or health checkup needed for Mexican states, which is kind of scary because I know there's some people who have a glaucoma or other serious conditions which might make them a hazard behind the wheel. But they don't check for that in Mexico. Okay, other big thing is once you hit the border between Texas and Mexico and you go to crossover, your insurance is no longer good in Mexico. So they'd expect you to have your very own Mexican insurance to pay for an accident. So you're going to have to basically go to the rest stop there on the border, and a lot of times you'll have to carry some coins with you, put it into a machine, and you'll have like a little foreign auto license insurance policy drop into the bin. What? That's not how I bought my last insurance policy, but that's how you have to do it in Mexico. All right, and the other big thing is once you head down south, is that most times when you're making a left-hand turn signal, it's not really telling people that you're getting ready to turn left. It actually means that you want the people to pass you. So you can be traveling out in the middle of the desert somewhere, and you see somebody's left-hand turn signal be on for the last half a mile. Well, that's because they're trying to indicate to you that you need to go around them. They'd rather have you in front rather than in back. All right, so how about some Mexican driving? What might be a picture of that be looking like? Okay. Yep, sometimes down south they don't always follow the regulations in terms of seat belts and car seats and those kinds of things. All right, and overall, here's what I found as I did a study of 53 countries from around the world. So if you look over here, 2 countries allow you to drive at 14. Let me see, think back to middle school. Would you allow people back there to drive a car in your neighborhood with you riding a bike? Or in another car itself? Yeah, well, Ethiopia and USA are the only 2 countries that allow it. There's also 2 countries that allow you to drive at 15. Again, New Zealand and the USA. I know there's some parts of Arkansas where you're allowed to drive at 15 and a half. Sounds kind of funny, especially since a lot of the boys really haven't matured yet, so they need to use telephone books in order to see up over the steering wheel. All right, 16. Again, now there's Canada above us and Mexico below us, and of course we're one of the 4, again at 16. So if you see a pattern there, not a whole lot of countries are letting you drive at an early age. It's not until you get to about 17, and then the majority 18, such as India and the large countries of Brazil, where they're going to let you get behind the wheel. So you can thank your lucky stars and also your congressman for the ability to drive at 16. So here in the United States, you have a lot of freedom and a lot of privileges, and you should be thankful for them. Because if you live anywhere else, you might be waiting at least another year, if not 2, before you even get a chance to get behind the wheel of a car. All right, so right after this, you're going to see if 16 is actually too young to drive. Originally, I had an Oprah show for you in the classroom, but instead, I'm actually going to show you why legislators and parents would like you to be a little bit older than 16 before you drive. And it all ties back to Mannheim Central, where unfortunately they lost 4 of their football players in a tragic car accident because they're kind of horsing around. And I actually had talked to mom in person about this. And so you guys get to see that video clip, and that's going to happen right after this.